Hello again, Joy from Joyously Handmade and Adventures in Menopause. I am back with the second part of my tutorial, and this is an experiment, really more than a tutorial I guess, because what I was trying to do is make just some watercolor rings as a background for a mandala. And this was my first attempt, and I really was not happy with it when I left it alone. Mostly because the paper it's flat now that it's all dried out, but it had warped in a way that left a valley in the center, and as you can kind of see, the paint pooled and ran in the center, so there's kind of paint all the way across really. There's only a few white spots here and there. So I did a second attempt while this was drying, and I kind of left it and went, if it's not really nice, I'm not even going to go back and bother putting the ink on it. But once it dried, now I look at it and I'm like, well, maybe it still has some possibilities, so we'll try. As I said, it has flattened out. I can still very faintly see the pencil marks for the rings through the paint. So what I did is I added, as faintly as possible, some guidelines just to help me keep it straight. Now, of course, I was going to try and do something around these points because it kind of got blooms there while I was working, so I figured I'd make use of that. So on the outside ring, I probably won't be very symmetrical because it didn't turn out being exactly even. My center line is here, and the point comes a little bit off to the side. But I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to go ahead and draw a mandala like I normally would, and see if I can't incorporate some of the colors and blooms and things that happened with the watercolor, and just see how it works. Because, like I said, this is my first attempt at it, so I'm not expecting perfection. I'm not usually expecting perfection anyways, to be honest, because I'm not patient enough to do the work it takes to get perfection. But at least I'm honest about it. Excuse me for sniffing. It's allergy season. I'm allergic to my dog, and he's sitting beside me staring. So I apologize. It's kind of rude. So here's my center, like so. Hopefully my hand doesn't get in the way too much while I do this. And the yellow did still kind of stay. I was really worried at first because when I put the yellow on and then I put the pink immediately on afterwards, they ran together a lot. I didn't think I was going to be able to see the yellow very purely. I can. I did add a few dabs part way in to see if I could get it to spread the pink back out. And since it is very yellowy in the middle, I'm just going to turn it into a nice flower. And I'm just using my little guidelines and basically making a loop inside each, not quarter, I guess it's an eighth. Like so. It also hides the hole that was in the paper for my compass. And then for the next one, I usually like to do petals. I like having a flower in the center of my mandala. I don't know what it is, but it just seems to be a good starting point for me. When I'm stuck, I make petals. And the pink and the yellow together is giving me kind of this glowing, it's not really a coral color. It's still quite pink, but it's just got enough yellow to make it kind of glow, which is nice. And I'm just going to put some little petal lines in there. I am using, if you can read that or not, Faber-Castell, if that's how I say it right, and it's a medium India ink pen. I could have done the mandala first with the pen because it is waterproof, being India ink, but I wasn't sure what the watercolors were going to do, so I decided it was probably smarter to let the colors do their thing first and then follow the colors instead of hoping I could get the colors to go where I wanted them to. And it's probably a good thing because they didn't go anywhere I thought they were going to go on my first attempt. So it probably would have been a complete disaster. So I'm kind of glad I didn't do that. Anywho, so I have nice big areas here that I want to do something with. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go along my guidelines like so and fill some space. And I'm going from this line to not all the way up because my thought process here is that I'd like to do some big petals. And these are just going to be decoration for the center of the big petals, if it works out. So I'm going to go here. Yeah, basically I'm going to make 4 big petals from this guideline to this guideline. Normally I would turn my page as I go so that my lines are a little bit nicer. But since this is, my camera is kind of dangling above, or my phone I guess I really should say, is dangling above my work, and sometimes if I move it or bump it, it wiggles all over and you get seasick. Sorry about that. So I decided that I would try to just do it as is, because if I don't put it back in the same place afterwards, I have to start trying to move the camera to get it centered. It took some work to do that, so I don't want to do it again. Alright, so I like that, but I think it needs something more. So I'm going to start here and do another little line, like so. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with it below that point yet, but we'll deal with that in a sec. So far I'm using my medium pen. I figure if I want to go back and do some more detail afterwards, I will do it with a different pen then. So I think what I want to do at this point is just kind of curve the other direction to match up. So I'm doing kind of a convex from there to there and a convex from there to there, and if they meet, it works out great. I do have a guideline that you probably can't see just at the edge of these petals, so that's what I'm going to. I'm going to where the guideline meets the center line, like so. And it's still, to my eyes, need something else, so I'm going to go like this, just to give that space some interest. I tried planning one of these out once, thinking that I could get it figured out, and I didn't like it any better than the ones that I just wing it on. So, what the heck. Now this needs something, but I'll think about that as I go and do it later. So that's where we are so far. I think that I'd like to actually follow this line around and do something with this space later. So that's what I'm going to do. Again, I apologize if my hand gets in the way because I'm just trying not to turn the page. Sometimes it's a little awkward of an angle to get a smooth line. Hopefully I'm not actually climbing under the camera. I did that once when I was doing a polymer clay. I think it was a polymer clay. I was doing something and I looked down close to get near it and I stuck my head right under the camera. I don't think anybody really wanted to see the back of my head, but they did. Alright, so I'm going to leave that space for now. I think I might actually kind of put line in it and then fill at some point, but I'm going to move on. I had done some blooms on, because when I was drawing this line, I didn't get a smooth line, and every time I stopped with my brush, I'd get a bloom. So I went back and I kind of added blooms so they'd be a little evenly spaced, thinking that that would help me later with my pattern. Now, not so much, because they're not lining up with my compass points, of course, right? So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those. I suppose I could just randomly add a curl every time there's a bloom. Nobody said it all had to be perfectly symmetrical, although they do look so much better when they are. Or I can just kind of ignore them and make some sort of pattern regardless. So I think for now I'm going to ignore them, and I'm going to go from this guideline to that guideline around and make, oh, I missed my guideline. The guideline's actually there. So it's got kind of a sun shape to it. Oh, and I totally screwed that up. I started down here for this one, and I went up there for those. So this actually is supposed to go here. So I guess we're doing a double line. And one of these is going to be messed up because I think I went from this line to that line. This is why I say fly by the seat of my pants, because sometimes I mess things up. So it's that one that I messed up. All right. Then from here I have to go here, and I have to go here. Now, in order to make this all the same, I have to do that. Which means now I'm going like this, and I'm going like this, because it may have been a boo-boo, but now it's all going to be the same. So, actually that looks kind of cool. It's what some of the people on here call a happy accident, I guess. I think that was actually one of the painting gurus on TV. Can't remember his name. He used to talk about happy accidents, and I've seen a few people on my various blogging and Facebook pages that all say the same thing. So this curve's a little wonky. I don't know what I was doing there. I think it's just the angle of my wrist. But that kind of actually works out. I think that looks kind of cool. So at some point I will probably put some sort of stripes or something in there to fill that in. So that's kind of alright. I'm alright with that. Since I was doing this to fill the space earlier, I think I'm going to do it again, and I'm just going to put a big petal under each one of these points. I like repeating patterns when I can, just gives it some sort of flow, like it all is meant to go together. Balances out my seat of the pants thing. Alright, and I guess I'll just do the same but smaller petals here. So we've totally gone off the reservation when it comes to trying to follow any kind of a watercolor paint pattern. My petals are getting a little big. However, so far I'm liking the look of this. More than I thought I would when I finished painting it. Alright, so there's that. So far so good. I don't think my blooms are going too strangely in the background. This part I'm going to leave for now. What am I going to do with this? I think I want to ignore the guideline. I don't think I want to draw over that guideline. But I think I want to go back to my petals, and this time I think I'm going to overlap. So I'm going to go from here to here. And I'm going to do it on every one, so it's not going to be straight petals. I just have to find, kind of hard to see it under some of the paint. And again, this might not be the smoothest line in the world because I'm not turning it, but at least you can get the idea. So where's the next? It's there. The blue paint's kind of the darkest one. It's a little harder to see. And I don't want to skip to my next line like I did last time. So I'm just going to mark it so I know where I'm going. Like so. And like so. Like so. Now, looks kind of like a pinwheel, which is kind of cool. I was planning to put it from here to here on each one to make overlapping petals, and I probably still will do that, but you could actually just kind of make little half curves here and get a nice pinwheel effect, and that would be pretty cool too. But in my head I saw it doing this, so I'm going to go ahead and just join these up to make my overlapping petals, and that gives me all these little sections to play with. All right, almost done. There. Now it doesn't line up with the little blooms that I had in this either, but I kind of like the pattern that's going on. Now I can do something different with fill here and here, but I haven't decided yet. So what I'm going to do though is I am going to follow my guideline along around the outside of this, because I want to put some sort of fill between the two blue edges. I can barely see that line, so it's not the easiest thing in the world, because I'm not good at straight circles. My circles are never circles unless I have a guideline. But there we go. All right, I like it. I actually like it. I really didn't think I was going to like the finished product with all the issues I had with the background paint. But aside from this that's bothering me, I do. So, now I've got my funny bloomy things going on that I hadn't planned to have. I'm going to definitely follow my second circle around, I think. Just so I have a nice strong edge, because that's why I did the dark blue circle. I wanted to have a nice strong edge on it. Or, I mean, edge might not be right the word. Border. All right, so now to figure out what to do with these guys. And I'm going to go and I think not follow necessarily the, oh I should. I'm going to go like so. And it is symmetrical, so to speak, but it's not following quite what paint does. But for now, that's what I'm going to do. I don't know why I'm doing it this way. Probably would have been better to do something that curled outwards. However, that's just kind of the shape that they've got. So then I think what I'll do is I'll come here, like so, and like so. You see how my circles are never circles unless there's a guideline? Get my coffee cup out of the way. Why is it we still call it a coffee cup if we're not drinking coffee out of it? It's not a teacup because it's not small with a handle the way a teacup is in a saucer, but I still call it a coffee cup. Alright, so that's kind of coolish. Do I do one here as well? I could kind of go like so to match, and then on the other side just do a little one. Just so it's kind of an ending point. And that way this is kind of symmetrical-ish, which isn't a word, but I'm using it anyway, symmetrical-ish, like so. And then I can do something in here if I want, but I still need something in here. So I think I'm just going to make a little bit of a fill. Like so. And then maybe a big one. Looks kind of like a tiara, sort of. Obviously this guy's a little stubbier than all the other ones. Like so. And my shapes just to make it look like it was meant to be. When in doubt, fake it till you make it, right? Make it look like it's what you planned all along, and then it's just artistic license. I remind myself about this because I need to, because like I say, it's never perfect. And I have a bad habit of telling everyone that it's never perfect, instead of just faking it till I make it. Oh, I screwed that one up. I usually say, oh yeah, I screwed this up, and I point out all my errors instead of just going with it. I haven't got my confidence level up there yet. Alright, so I think those have enough definition in it. And everything so far has been done with my medium pen, so maybe I'll put my medium pen away and start doing some fill with the smaller one. I don't want to go to the smallest, I want to go to my F, which is fine, because apparently in this universe, small is smaller than fine. I don't quite understand that. But I wanted to do something here, and I think I'm just going to do straight out line fill. Not very even, obviously. But everything's been a little curvy and curly and stuff so far, so I figure a nice line fill balances all those curves. Besides, it's quick, it's easy, and it does always look classy. So I use a lot of line fills. And that was getting awkward on my wrist, so I'm just going to do a section at a time. Find the angle that works, which probably means climbing under the camera again. As you can see, I think it's going to give it a nice look. And somewhere in my head while I'm doing this, I have to figure out what to do with all these spaces here, because I haven't figured that out yet. Fly by the seat of your pants means, yeah, just kind of dive in there and let your hand do something and then hope it looks good, because your brain really wasn't involved sometimes. And it's kind of scary because, you know, if your brain's not involved, who's in charge? Maybe it's a subconscious thing. I suppose there's probably some sort of subconscious artwork possible. All right, so far so good. Again, I'm sorry about snuffling. My problem is this: I have allergies to my dog, but I also have an ongoing, what my doctor considers to be a sinus issue. Although with all the sinus medication she gave me, it didn't really do anything, so I still have, like almost 4 years later, I still have this constant cough that she swears up and down is from nasal drip, from sinus problems, but the sinus expert said I didn't have any sinus issues at the time. So when I've got this sniffle thing going on, I can never quite tell whether I should take sinus medication or allergy medication, or if I've caught somebody's cold, because it's just constant. So how do you tell when it's a cold and when it's just your usual thing? So it's kind of funny. I go in the bathroom and I've kind of got 3 or 4 different medications in there, and I'll just, you know, pick one up at random and see if it works. Because I don't think I should take all 3. I might be a happier person, who knows, or it might just put me to sleep. I don't imagine there's anything all that strong in sinus medication, allergy medication, and cold medication, but then again, NyQuil can put you out pretty well. So this is why I have the perpetual snuffle, because obviously whichever pill I grab that day isn't the right one. And it's embarrassing, but after 4 years of having a constant cough and a snuffle, you just kind of deal with it. All right. Really what annoys me the most is I can't hold a note as long when I'm singing in the car. All right, so far I think it's actually looking much better than I ever expected this would when I got finished with the painting process. And I'm fairly pleased with it. So I think I've got these things here that I wanted to do something with, and I think I'm going to continue my lines because the lines were looking very classy. I'm just going to make sure though that I keep my lines parallel to the center as opposed to following the curve. I think it's just going to look nicer that way. And I've got this one for a guideline, so at least I know which way is up and down. Try to get one on a guideline and then follow the rest. And I think that's going to look nice because again it's a repeated pattern to make it all come together nicely and help you fake it till you make it kind of thing. Make it look like it was all meant to go together. My little happy accident, as I called it, turned out kind of cool. I don't think that's very parallel. But if I lean over any farther to get a better angle, then I'm getting my face in my lamp, and that's kind of hot. There. All right. Again, I think that turned out pretty cool. But I think, though, I'm going to put my fine aside and get out my bold. Where's my bold? My bold one's actually like a marker tip almost. It's a soft brush tip. And I want this line, I think, to be thicker. I like it, and I want to make it thicker. Like so. This is the point where my dog starts whining because he wants to go outside. That's because he only wants to turn around and come back inside. But he really can't make up his mind. So at some point we're probably going to hear a bunch of whiny dog and scratching on the door. Oh, yeah, there you start. Oh, yeah, sure. Thinking about the dog and I'm messing up my line. Alright. There, I think it needed some more darker colors here and there, so that's why I've done that. And I think I actually also want to, I feel like I want to fill this in dark around this. I'm trying to figure out whether that just kind of defeats the purpose of having the blue blooms there. Maybe I should fill in this part, and that way the blue is still in the center. But I've got blue beside blue, so maybe, I think I like my first idea. I think it'll help the blue stand out, and maybe the outside edge will look kind of more light than blue in comparison. Hopefully that looks okay. But sometimes you have to have some nice dark areas to balance it out. It needs something, and this helped me hide my little screw up over here. I'm sorry, happy accident? Is that what I'm supposed to call that? I meant to do that. There, so there's that problem solved. And maybe I'm just trying to avoid the fact that I'm not quite sure what to do with my large petal areas. Somewhere in my head, maybe I'll decide while I'm coloring this in. Yeah, I like that. I think it's going to be okay. I think think that was a good idea. Why have these big fancy things and not make them a focal point, right? Right. Now meanwhile, I had meant to not talk as much so I could speed part of this up. And obviously that did not happen. But since we're flying by the seat of our pants and we have to make decisions on what we're going to put and where, I kind of like to talk about it because maybe other people are having the same issue where they can't quite decide what to do where. And if we all kind of share our thought process, maybe it'll get easier. Who knows? Then again, maybe it's just because I can't stop talking. All right, so I like that, but I also think I need something in here. So I'm going to add one of my little petals. In here, and that goes with my little petals here. I don't know if that helped or not. Maybe it didn't, maybe it did. Anyways, moving along. I'm just going to pause for half a minute and blow my nose because I'm sounding gross. I'll be right back. Okay, apologies, I'm back. There you go, you see what I mean by as soon as I touch the camera to turn it on or off, everything starts to weave. So we're back and I finished my bold stuff, and now all I really have to figure out is how I'm filling these areas and if I want to fill them kind of the same-ish, or if I want to separate the outside petals from the inside petals. And I think I probably will. I haven't quite figured out how, but I think what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to separate these by outlining. And now this looks like its own entity instead of being an overlap of that. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. Maybe I'll just keep making triangles inside each other, inside each other, inside each other to fill the space. That would be a fairly easy way to do it. And I could fill the triangles with different line patterns or dots or something like that. That would work. I'm sure that would work. And I'm kind of completely haven't followed any of these orange blooms that were in my original watercolor, but it's still giving it some interest just having the different tones of orange in the background, I think. There's still kind of a bloom in the center of each of those. Maybe I should do something with that. Maybe I should follow that somehow or other. Make some sort of half moon circle-y deal going on in there, like I would if I were filling in some henna. Maybe I'll do that for the next part. So meanwhile, I've got those. Now I can do, as I said, do triangle inside triangle inside triangle, or I could do some sort of fan shape. If I meet in the middle, maybe I can do this. Put the triangle into triangles and then fill each corner. Or I could just kind of go out from each corner and then overlap. I haven't done that for anything before, so let's try that. Let's go like so. And then like so. And then like so. That was a really wide line. I'll have to add another one in there. And I really don't think I like that. But hey, it was an experiment. And I did it, and now I probably will not do that ever again. It's too busy. I should have maybe just kept the outside too like this and not done the third. See, that one's not so bad. You add in the third, then suddenly it's a little more busy. And then it's not so nice. All right, note to self, don't do this again. But it's done now, so we're dealing with it. All right. It was going so well, too. Maybe once I get them all done, it won't look quite so crazy because it'll all be the same. You never know. I didn't think any of this was going to look good, and so far I liked it, so I guess it's possible for me to be wrong. Don't tell my husband. And there's the dog whining that I was telling you about. My poor dog is very old, and he has hot spots, and he gets very antsy. Which I suppose I would too if I was constantly itchy. It would probably make me antsy and a little crazy. So I guess I can't blame him too much. Although he always seems to find the worst possible time to decide that he has to go out. Well, I suppose now that there's more of them, it looks a little bit less disastrous. Maybe that's the word. At least it's evenly spaced around the picture, so the one by itself just looked like one big mess. I still don't think I'll do this again, though. Still don't think I'll do this again. What I'm trying to do lately is I'm trying to do more fills, because when I look at a mandala, I like the ones that have all the very fine details and layers of patterns and things like that. I like the look of it. So I'm trying to get mine to look more like that. But it does take a lot of work to fill in all the different areas and spaces and figure out what to do so that it's not repeated patterns too much. Like, you don't want to do the same pattern in every space. So I was Zentangling in the hopes that that would help me learn some fills. And that's kind of where this came from, is from a Zentangle thing that I saw. It may just be too much for this. Although I think in the Zentangle thing, they actually ended up filling in some of these spaces in black and white. Obviously it was a bigger space, so the holes weren't so small. Alright, let's take a look. I guess it could be worse. I'm going to go back with my medium because I do have a lot of edges where the lines kind of came out. So I'm just going to go over outside and make it look like it was meant to be there, and hide some of those ones that overlapped, like so. I love that they have these different sizes in these pens, but sometimes you really can't tell that much of a difference. Really? Sometimes I get out and I try all the different sizes of pens and I swear it looks like they're all the same line anyways. And then other times like this, when you've just got that little tiny bit of something sticking out and you can hide it with a slightly wider nib. Because in this instance, I can see the difference. Did I do that one? No, I didn't. And the beauty of these too, because they're the India ink, I don't smudge them as much by not waiting for it to dry. I do have a little on the end of my hand, but I don't end up leaving smudges all over the whole page like I have with some. All right, so do we avoid this for a little longer and deal with the center? Maybe. I'm going to do some lines in here, because I am just avoiding the part I don't know what to do with. And I had already decided that I wanted to fill this with something. So that's the something I came up with. That's a bit better. It gives it a bit darker of an area. And I think that my little petals need to be black, because there's not a lot of dark values in that center area. So that takes care of that. Now they look like a club. Go figure. All right, and while I'm at it, I think I want to put a dot in the middle of those. That one's already kind of got one. There. Okay, I like that a bit better. It's got a bit more character. So these are my issue. I think I'm right though. I think I'm going to do this, because that's where my blooms are. And that's where the color's strongest. So I think I want to highlight that by leaving that area uncolored with the pen, and then fill in the rest with stuff. And that should highlight the fact that we've got this nice orange bloom in the center of each of these petals. Half moons aren't always very half moonish. And then I'll go back to my old standard, when in doubt, do petals. Because it's just easiest to do this. But this is a standard henna fill in many things. Do a half moon, do some petals, do a couple more half moons, and then carry on. So it's kind of a fallback for me. And it always looks pretty. It's always very summery, having little flowers everywhere. Those are my excuses for using something easy. This one's quite dark, it's got lots of orange in it. And other ones have barely any orange at all. When I get to this point. So I wasn't obviously very even when I was doing it. So another half moon around my flower. Now what? I think I need to put a border on these. I don't think I want my pattern going right up to the edge. There's that. And I know I have lines everywhere already, but I like them, and I'm just going to fill this area with little lines, I think, because it needed something a little darker. And when you put lines together, they may not really be a darker color, but that's what they use for shading in a lot of cases. It's just to add some little hatching lines like this. So maybe it's just a trick of the eye to make it think it's a different, darker color, when really it's lines, but it works. Gives it, I guess they would call that a darker value. And maybe it was too much near all these stupid crazy lines in my other area here, but you never know. Each space kind of needs to have some dark, some light, and some color to my way of thinking. No, I think it's okay. I think that works. So the question here is, what am I doing with this area? And I don't know. Maybe I will do more petals. Just continue my petals from edge to edge. Maybe that's what I'll do. Sure, why not? There. One nice big one at the top edge, and I should have started with the big one like I did the first time around. I think it works better if I do that. Yes, I think it does. Petals, smaller petals. I think as I'm looking at it, I need this line to be darker, so I might go back in with my big marker, my bold, and go over that line to make it stand out a bit better. I think it needs something. I do. And then we're almost done. And I have to say, I really was just going to throw this out. I did a second section of the video with another attempt. I'll show you my other attempt. This is my second attempt. I actually did a second attempt because I liked this so little, the way the paint turned out, that I did this, thinking that, well, if I have to, I'll just trash that and I'll do my tutorial on that one. But I was pleasantly surprised when I actually got around to doing this, that it actually does have nice color to the background. It may not be perfect and it may not be even, but it does give a nice bright color behind my mandala that adds something to it. And so maybe I'll try this again some other time and see if I can't get better. I don't like repeating projects. I like to try it once and see how it goes. Maybe that's why I'm never perfect. You have to repeat something over and over to get better at it, and I don't. But maybe I should. I do like this enough. I like mandalas, and I like watercolor, even though I'm not really all that good at it. So maybe this is the way I can get away with not being as good at the watercolor and still making use of it. There, that definitely is better. Definitely needed that. Now I've gone over my line. Definitely needed that. And I think this pretty much finishes this project. So at least if nothing else, you've learned that something that looked really ugly at the beginning can actually be helpful to you at some way in the end. Because there's our project. And I do think it turned out kind of pretty. So I'm going to make this the bottom, I think, because I want to sign it. Like so. And thanks for joining me. I'm probably still going to do another tutorial using this other one because I kind of like the way it turned out. It's dry now, but at the time these blooms really look like the bases of trees, so I kind of decided that I've got tree stems and I've got what could be autumn leaves and I've got sky. So in my head I'm making each of these into a tree with overlapping branches and things, and I think it's going to look pretty cool. So I'm probably still going to go and do another tutorial finishing this one as a mandala like I did that, except a totally different style of mandala. So if you'd like to see that one, you can come back and see that. If you'd like to see any of my other stuff, I do have the YouTube channel. It's under Joy Gillard, G-I-L-L-A-R-D. There's also Adventures in Menopause, which is my blog, and it's got all sorts of other goodies, not all crafty stuff there, and that is http:// Adventures in Menopause. Oh, sorry, that's the name of it. http:// and then survivinglifeover40.com is the actual web address. So you can find me in either place, and you can go check out some of my other fly by the seat of your pants crafting. Sometimes it's polymer clay, sometimes it's pumpkin carving. You never know what you're going to get, because I'm all over the place. But meanwhile, thanks for joining me. I'm sorry this has been a little longer than expected, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Toodles!